Wolf Brother, Chapter 28. "Why are you doing this?" cried Wren. "He's trying to help us. You can't treat him like an outcast." "Watch me," said Hord, dragging Torak through the snow. Torak fought to stay on his feet, but it wasn't easy with his hands tied behind his back. There was no hope of escape. He was surrounded by Oslak and 4 sturdy raven men. "Faster," urged Hord. "We've got to reach camp before dark." "But he's a listener," said Wren. "I can prove it." She pointed at the ravenskin pouch at Torak's waist. "He found all 3 pieces of the Nanoak." "Did he?" muttered Hord. Without breaking stride, he drew his knife and cut the pouch from Torak's belt. "Well, now it's mine." "What are you doing?" cried Wren. "Give it back." "Hold your tongue," snapped Hord. "Why should I? Who says you can—" Hord slapped her. It was a hard blow across the face, and she went flying, landing in a heap. Oslak growled a protest, but Hord warned him back. He was breathing hard as he watched Wren sitting up. "You're no longer my sister," he spat. "We thought you were dead when we found your quiver in the stream. Finkedden didn't speak for 3 days, but I didn't grieve. I was glad. You betrayed your clan, and you shamed me. I wish you were dead." Wren put a trembling hand to her lip. It was bleeding. A red mark was coming up on her cheek. "You shouldn't have hit her," said Torak. Hord turned on him. "Keep out of this." Torak looked hard at Hord and was shocked by the change in him. Instead of the stocky young man he'd fought less than a moon ago, he was facing a gaunt shadow. Hord's eyes were raw from sleeplessness, and the hand that clutched the Nanoak had no fingernails, just oozing sores. Something was eating him up from inside. "Stop staring at me," he snarled. "Hord," said Oslak, "we've got to keep moving. The bear." Hord wheeled round, his eyes straining to pierce the darkness. The bear, he muttered, as if the very thought hurt. "Come, Wren." Oslak leaned down and offered his hand. "We'll soon have a poultice on that. Camp's not far." Wren ignored him and got unaided to her feet. Glancing up the trail, Torak caught an orange flicker in the deepening dusk. Nearer, in the shadows beneath a young spruce, a pair of amber eyes. His heart turned over. If Hord saw Wolf, there was no knowing what he might do. Luckily, Wren had everyone's attention. "Is my brother clan leader now?" she demanded. "Do you follow him instead of Finkedden?" The men hung their heads. "It's not that simple," said Oslak. "The bear attacked 3 days ago. It killed—" His voice cracked. "It killed 2 of us." The blood drained from Wren's face. She drew closer to Oslak, whose brow and cheekbones were marked with grey river clay. Torak didn't know what the marks meant, but when Wren saw them, she gasped. "No," she whispered, touching Oslak's hand. The big man nodded and turned away. "What about Finkedden?" Wren said shrilly. "Is he—" "Badly wounded," said Hord. "If he dies, I will be leader. I'll make sure of it." Wren clapped her hands to her mouth and raced off towards the camp. "Wren!" shouted Oslak. "Come back!" "Let her go," said Hord. When she'd gone, Torak felt utterly alone. He didn't even know the names of the other raven men. "Oslak," he begged, "make Hord give him back the sorry. Let me say that again. Oslak," he begged, "make Hord give me back the Nanoak. It's our only hope. You know that." Oslak started to speak, but Hord cut in. "Your part in this is finished," he told Torak. "I will take the Nanoak to the mountain. I will offer the blood of the listener to save my people." Wolf was so frightened that he wanted to howl. How could he help his pack brother? Why was everything so chewed up? As he followed the full-grown taillesses through the bright soft cold, he struggled against the hunger gnawing his belly and the muzzle-watering smell of the lemmings just a pounce away. He fought against the pull that was now so strong that he felt it all the time, and the fear of the demon he scented on the wind. He turned his ears from the distant howls of the stranger pack, the pack that didn't sound like strangers anymore, but far away kin. He had to ignore it all. His pack brother was in danger. Wolf sensed his pain and fear. He sensed too the anger of the full-growns and their fear. They were scared of tall Tailless. The wind changed, and Wolf caught a wave of scents from the great den of the taillesses. Sounds and smells overwhelmed him. Bad, bad, bad! His courage failed. Whimpering, he shot under a fallen tree. The den meant terrible danger. It was huge and complicated, with angry dogs who didn't listen, and many of the bright beasts that bite hot. Worst of all were the taillesses themselves. They couldn't hear or smell much, but they made up for it by doing clever things with their forepaws and sending the long claw that flies far to bite the prey. Wolf didn't know whether to run or stay. To help himself think, he chewed a branch, then a chunk of the bright soft cold. He ran in circles. Nothing worked. He'd longed for the strange sureness that sometimes came to him and told him what to do, but it didn't come. It had flown like a raven into the up. What must he do? Torak blamed himself. Because of his carelessness, he'd lost the Nanoak. It was all his fault. Around him, the snow-laden trees cast blue moon shadows across the trail. Your fault, they seemed to be telling him. Faster, said Horde, jabbing him in the back. The ravens had camped in a clearing by a mountain stream. At the heart of the clearing, a long fire of 3 pine logs glowed orange. Clustered around it were the clan's sloping shelters, then a ring of smaller fires and spiked pits guarded by men with spears. It looked as if the entire clan had come north. Horde ran ahead while Torak waited with Oslak by one of the shelters. He saw Wren and his spirits rose. She was kneeling at the mouth of the shelter on the other side of the clearing, talking urgently. She didn't see him. People were huddled around the long fire. The air was thick with fear. According to Oslak, scouts had found signs of the bear only 2 valleys away. It's getting stronger, he said, tearing up the forest as if it's seeking something. Torak started to shiver. Horde's forced march had kept him warm, but now, in his summer buckskin, he was freezing. He hoped they wouldn't think he was scared. Oslak untied his wrists and put his hand on his shoulder to guide him into the clearing. Torak forgot about the cold as he stumbled into the glare of the long fire and a buzz of voices like a hive of angry bees. He saw Seon, cross-legged on a pile of reindeer hides with the ravenskin pouch in her lap, Horde beside her, gnawing his thumb, Dairati watching Horde, her face strained. Silence fell. People made way for the 4 men bearing Fingheddin on an auroch hide litter. The Raven leader's face was drawn and his left leg was bandaged in soft bindings blotched with blood. His face contracted slightly as the men set him down by the long fire. It was the only sign he gave of being in pain. Wren appeared, rolling a chunk of pine log. She put it behind Fingheddin for him to lean against, then curled up beside him on a reindeer skin. She didn't look at Torak, but kept her eyes on the fire. Oslak nudged him in the back, and he took a few halting steps closer to the litter. The Raven leader caught his gaze and held it, and Torak felt a rush of relief. The blue eyes were as intense and unreadable as ever. Horde would have to wait a while longer to be clan leader. When we first found this boy, said Fingheddin, his voice ringing clear, we didn't know who or what he was. Since then he has found the 3 pieces of the Nanoak. He has saved the life of one of our own. He paused. I have no more doubts. He is the listener. The question is, do we let him take the Nanoak to the mountain, a boy on his own, or do we send our strongest hunter, a full-grown man with a far greater chance against the bear? Horde stopped gnawing his thumb and squared his shoulders. Torak's heart sank. Time is short, said Fingheddin, glancing at the night sky where the great auroch blazed. In a few days the bear will be too strong to overcome. We can't call a clan meet. There's no time. I must decide this now for all the clans. The only sound was the hiss and crackle of the fire. The ravens were hanging on every word. There are many among us, Fingheddin went on, who will say it would be madness to trust our fate to a boy. Horde leapt to his feet. It would be madness. I'm the strongest. Let me go to the mountain and save my people. You're not the listener, said Torak. What about the rest of the prophecy, said Seon in her raven's croak. The listener gives his heart's blood to the mountain. Could you do that? Torak took a breath. If that's what it takes. But there's another way, cried Horde. We kill him now, and I take his blood to the mountain. At least then we stand a chance. A murmur of approval from the ravens. Fingheddin raised a hand for silence and spoke to Torak. You used to deny that you were the listener. Why so keen now? Torak raised his chin. The bear killed my father. That's what it was made to do. This is greater than vengeance, sneered Hord. It's greater than vanity too, Torak retorted. He spoke to Finkheddin. I don't care about being the saviour of my people. What people? I've never even met my own clan. But I swore to my father that I'd find the mountain. I swore an oath. We're wasting time, said Hord. Give me the Nanoak and I will do it. How? Said a quiet voice. It was Wren. How will you find the mountain? She asked. Hord hesitated. Wren stood up. It's said to be the furthest peak at the northernmost end of the high mountains. Well, here we are at the northernmost end of the high mountains. So where is it? She spread her hands. You don't know. I don't know. He ground his teeth. She spoke to Seon. Do you know? No, and you're the mage. She faced Finkheddin. Do you? No, he answered. Wren pointed at Torak. Not even he knows where it is, and he's the listener. She paused. But somebody knows. She looked directly at Torak, her eyes drilling into his. He caught her meaning. Clever Wren, he thought, just as long as it works. He put his hands to his lips and howled. The ravens gasped. The camp dogs leapt into uproar. Again, Torak howled. Suddenly, a streak of grey sped across the clearing and crashed into him. People muttered and pointed. The dogs went wild until men shooed them away. A small child laughed. Torak knelt and buried his face in Wolf's fur. Then he gave the cub's muzzle a grateful lick. It had taken enormous courage for Wolf to answer his call. As the uproar subsided, Torak raised his head. Only Wolf can find the mountain, he told Finkheddin. He got us this far. It's only because of him that we found the Nanoak. The Raven leader ran a hand over his dark red beard. Give me back the Nanoak, pleaded Torak. Let me take it to the world spirit. It's our only chance. The fire crackled and spat. Snow thudded off a nearby spruce. The ravens waited for their leader's decision. At last, Finkheddin spoke. We'll give you food and clothing for the journey. When do you leave? Torak breathed out. Wren gave him a curt nod. Hord shouted a protest, but Finkheddin silenced him with a glance. Again he spoke to Torak. When do you leave? Torak swallowed. Tomorrow?